What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports Morning Show. I am your host, Mangone. I am here with Titletown. We're talking some hoops today. Excited to have him here to break it down. We got the MMA tomorrow, so who knows? Maybe he'll give us some winners there. Title, how is it going? How are you doing today?
Mangone, you can introduce the people to a new friend of yours. This is my first appearance on the show. A lot of early MLB lately, so DC's been on here a lot, giving some winners. Tuned in a lot of these shows. Hoop came on, talked about his process. Big T talk playoffs. So excited to hop on. You do a great job with these shows. Going to be talking a little NBA playoffs action. Like you said, MMA tomorrow. We're in the MLB streets. All the sports. It's tons of sports right now, but we're always on top of it over here at Run Pure Sports, following them all. So whatever comes up, whatever the people want to talk about, I'm here for.
Yep, I'm definitely with you on that. Having a good time hanging out with everyone. Good to finally get you on here. We got tons of different sports going on. Obviously, it's pretty crazy. The baseball has been fun doing this stuff with DC. Seems like there's been tons of winners in the chat. NBA been going pretty good as well. I saw Big T had a pretty big baseball win earlier in the week for some day baseball. So yeah, it's been a pretty good time over here at Run Pure Sports. If you haven't signed up yet, now's the time to do it. I mean, you're crazy if you don't. We got Saberson. That's another great thing that we have over here at Run Pure Sports that you got to check out. It helps you build lineups rather than just hand building everything. And we'll definitely talk about some lineup building process here with NBA. Title had a nice little hit not too long ago. So it wasn't first place, but he's newer to the MMA streets. I know he's been doing it a lot. And I'm definitely someone that's getting into the MMA stuff. And I feel like I've been getting into it forever, but I've been kind of creating new ideas and I like what I'm doing right now a lot. So we'll get in and talk about that shortly. But before we kind of do that, Title, why don't you talk about the MMA card coming up and talk about the MMA show that you have today. There's going to be a show. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you'll get notified when we go live at 2 p.m. Eastern. So you don't want to miss out on that. Title and DC will be breaking down the fights. And there's a card this weekend. It's not the greatest card, but there's still money to be won, right, Title?
Absolutely, yeah. And not the greatest card. Like you said, we're down to 12 fights right now. A lot of the names are like, man, some of these people should not be in the UFC. But like you said, there's always money to be made. And MMA, we talk about the pandemic and stuff. The one good thing the pandemic brought out was MMA now has 100K up top every single weekend. I remember back in the day, like 20K up top, grinding it and stuff. There's always big prize pools, so always money to be made. It's really fun over here at Run Pure Sports. Big T loves it now. Hoop loves it now. JSU now is in the streets most days. Tons of members are playing it. So always a fun time on Saturdays. We're breaking down the fights today. Non-pay-per-view card, DC, Keg, myself, 2 p.m. Eastern. Pay-per-view cards, we go live 11 a.m. Eastern on Saturdays. And yeah, I mean, who doesn't like watching two trained killers trying to kill each other? It's a pretty alpha sport and one that makes my Saturdays a lot better. So excited about that.
It's definitely it's a lot of fun to watch. MMA DFS, me and MMA DFS aren't the best friends, but I'm playing it a little bit more.
Embrace the variance, man. Going like MLB, just embrace the variance.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get as excited for MMA. Maybe I think I have to MMA it more. I get more in MMA, but
it's definitely an MMA sport. I will say that single entry stuff.
1,000% for sure. The one thing I hate about MMA, this is one thing I really don't like about MMA. I hate like how there can instantly be like something that's optimal and like the night could just be over if you don't have it. Like that's the one thing I really hate about it. Like
part of the sport.
For instance, if Brooke Lopez goes for 45, right? Like, I mean, I can have a center that matches it at the same price. They can. It's not as likely, but it's possible. Or it could be a different combination. That's like the one thing I don't love about MMA. That's pretty frustrating. But yeah, so overall, MMA, definitely check that out. The show, that's good times. Title's Playbook. You don't want to miss out on that. But we're going to talk a little NBA. We're going to talk the 3-game slate. We'll obviously talk about who we think is going to win, right? Some of these series have changed a ton because of some injuries. So we'll discuss that. We're going to talk DFS as well. But before we do that, Title, and I believe Helmet might have the thing ready to go. But Title, you had a nice little hit the other night. You had I believe you got 4th place on FanDuel. And like I said, I've been MMAing a little bit more on FanDuel. I've been doing like 20 lineups, some days 30. Been doing it in MLB too, just to kind of try different things out. And I kind of like what I'm doing. And tell me a little bit about this team that you made. So Helmet's going to put the graphic up, I think, now with your team. I'll kind of read the team off, then you can kind of, go from there. Fred VanVleet. And one thing I noticed with this, it's obviously a 3-game slate. Ownership percentages, they're like no one's single digits, right? Your lowest owned guy is Daniel Tice. But again, it's a 3-game slate, so a lot of guys gain ownership. Fred VanVleet, though, 47%. Alex Caruso, who was clearly a value on FanDuel, where the stocks are important too. 39%. DeMar DeRozan, 22%. Bruce Brown, 20%, which Bruce Brown, we should talk about his price. I mean, he on FanDuel, he was only 6'3" that day. I thought he was like 7'6" because I know he's had some crazy price tags on FanDuel. Giannis, obviously jamming in him. You were jumping up and down in the Deer District for him. Chris Middleton ended up getting hurt, sadly, for you, which you can talk about that a little bit. OG Anunoby, pretty big game, 45%, which he wasn't even 45% owned on a site like DK. And the reason why is the price tag, right? 6'1" is just like way too underpriced. Daniel Tice, your lowest owned guy, 4.3K. I can't remember the slate, but I assume the reason why is power forward just so loaded. And with those centers being able to get eligibility like Joel Embiid, being able to be put in a power forward, well, that's naturally going to just shift a lot of the ownership to those studs where that like cheaper build is probably not getting the ownership there. And I bet you OG was probably a small forward on a lot of teams too. I bet you he wasn't even plugged into the power forward spot, which probably made this team really unique. And then Precious Achiuwa, 38%. So Title, take it away. Kind of talk about the sweat and then talk about like, some of your process with this MME team.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we know how much of a peasant Title is when you come on and we talk little $7,500 win when Hoop's coming out with the 100Ks, $1 million man and stuff like that. So 7,500. Yeah, I mean, I was in first place, 3 minutes left, 4 minutes left in the game. So it was a fun sweat. What I was fading was Brook Lopez. I don't know if Helmet showed the first place lineup or the comparison. Excuse me, but I don't know if he showed the comparison. But the differences mainly were Gary Trent earlier in the day. He put up 38 at 21%. He put up a big boy. He was 5,300. So I didn't have any of him. I crossed him out of the pool. This script, actually, I played 60 lineups instead of 150. I've been maxing most of the time. But I just found myself landing on like an Embiid, for example, a Trent, for example. When you 150, I don't know if you feel this way, Mangone, but I'm inclined. Kevin Durant, Kyrie, et cetera. All those are guys, Embiid, Kyrie, KD, and Gary Trent with some other ones. I completely faded. And why I felt fine with that is because I only had 60 lineups. If I had 150, I would feel the need, or at least myself when I was maxing, I felt the need, at least get 15% KD, at least get 20% Embiid. Even though you're underweight, you don't want to just be dead if they break the slate. Yesterday, Jared Vanderbilt, I did 150. I only was getting a couple percent in my script. I eventually full faded. You only needed a couple percent. He was on the winner. But what I'm saying, though, is because I faded KD, Kyrie, Embiid, all of that, it was easy to get way overweight on Giannis, which was what I wanted. So I bumped him way up. I bumped Precious way up because he was a great value. Guys like Middleton, I had a ton of. It's just so much easier for me to get way overweight on my guys. So yeah, looking at my team, I had DeMar 22%, Bruce Brown 19%, Giannis 19%, 62, 46, 74 burgers. You needed all three of them. So I was way overweight on all three, which was the key. But the problem was, yes, Middleton got hurt. Why I lost the first place was because Middleton got hurt. Brook Lopez is who I was fading. 4 minutes left in the game. The teams below me had Brook. They had Trent too. Trent was already done. But Brook Lopez, I had to get 0 from him because Bobby Portis got hurt early in the game, because Middleton got out. They couldn't go Giannis at the 5. We'll talk about that today too with Middleton injury. That's going to be an interesting talking point. But they had no one else to play. They had to play Brook. They couldn't go Giannis at the 5. I needed Brook on the bench to get the 100K. I needed Bobby Portis not to get hurt. But looking at the builds and stuff, yeah, because I go the DeRozan, the Bruce Brown, the Giannis, somehow they're all 20% on a 3-game slate. You made the point, like, you don't have any single-digit guys in your lineup. No, I don't. And I really don't often in playoffs, like a Vanderbilt. Sure, yesterday, I think he was fine. He's starting. But on a playoff slate, 3 games, like, we don't get these bums playing valuable minutes, 20 minutes plus on the playoff slate. It's not the regular season. You don't have all this value. So I'm fine just constructing a lineup. 15% was my lowest owned guy. I'm totally fine with that. And I think that's probably how most of my builds are if you look at my MME scripts. So there's always ways to be different, get off some chalk builds, find a spot here or there to get different on.
Yeah, I think one thing I've been doing a little bit of Title, which I've been liking, is I kind of like just run the projections, right? I X out the guys that I don't really want to have on my teams. And then when I X them out, I then do like some game stacks, which like, I get it. It's like, you might just organically get them. Like I was kind of looking at your team, was wondering if you had one. And like, I think naturally, let me see your team again.
I had Giannis and Middleton with DeMar and Caruso. So I guess if you call that a game stack.
Yeah, I mean, like, but I've been doing it too, where like sometimes like on FanDuel, right? If you run those game stacks, like, and like let's say you make it a like a 5-man stack. Like let's say you decide to do a 5-man.
Oh, you can't even do that. Isn't 4 the
Well,
most? Or
that's a game stack, right? Not a team stack. So
okay.
This actually leads to the point perfectly. Sometimes when you run game stacks title, especially if there's a lot of value, like Dallas, for instance, you'll just get 4 Dallas Mavericks on every team when you want a game stack. What I do is I just go in there and I make it where there's a max. Like if it's a 4-game stack, I make it give me max of 3 Dallas. So I automatically get run backs, and I do it for every single team. That way there's always a run back no matter what. Or you could do it for the case where, let's say, for instance, you want to do like a 5-man game stack, right? Well, you make it max of 3 on FanDuel, and then you're getting 3 2s basically all the time. And I'm using the projections, and like, I think it's just giving me a unique setup than other people. Like, and I'm still making smart teams, in my opinion. Those are little things I think you can do to, like, I think grind out a pretty good edge. Oh, you can do things like Big T. You go up on guys you like, right? You lower guys, or you X them out, however you want to do it. But just, I think finding what works for you is what's best to do. And so far it's been working for me. It hasn't resulted in a big hit or anything like that, but some days I have some pretty good teams. Some days I only lose a little bit. It's like been like decent so far. And I've had some teams that get closer to the top. So that's kind of what I've been doing so far. Do you have anything to like discuss, maybe like process wise, that you think you've been doing that works right? Some things maybe that didn't work right. Like there's some times where like you do like your MMA process, and like when you run it, you're like, man, I made some really bad mistakes, and like that, this is why it's not working. So what are some things that you've like kind of learned along the way so far?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm still learning a lot. I'm mainly a cash player. I still am in the cash streets on all 3 sites for NBA. I will the rest of the playoffs. On DK, like I was trying to mess, like do 20 lineups on DK and that $20, do a 150 on FanDuel, all this. Right now, I'm kind of just honing in on FanDuel and mess with the process. Like I said, this was the first day that I did the 60 lineups instead of 150. And the biggest thing I can stress, and I know most people watching this probably are maybe doing like a 20 entry max. Maybe they're doing 50 lineups in that $1, 150 max, etc. I'd say the biggest thing, just make hard stands. I listen, like the Big T JSU up to lock show is part of my process. I listen to stuff they say. Yesterday, I think it was JSU that was like, I don't like Cat at all in this matchup. Glock's talking like, I don't like Gobert and stuff in this matchup. Sometimes I'm agreeing with what they're saying. Sometimes I'm not. But listen to that show when they make points. Like when they were making on this slate, they were saying how they don't like Embiid for the price. I saw he was going to be very owned on FanDuel. I had him in cash and all that. I just hit the complete exclude button on him and didn't get any lineups. Again, I felt better doing that in 60 lineups. I actually almost added to max it, and then I pulled back and told myself no, because then I was about to go get some Embiid and stuff like that. So I just say make stands, make hard stands, full fade some people, and then it allows you to get way overweight on the other guys. Now you're talking a leak in your process or looking back on certain things. Like yesterday, I had 4%, I think, Jared Vanderbilt on FanDuel. He was about 4% owned. I went and I just hit the exclude button. When I see like a player in 1 lineup or 2 lineups out of 150, I naturally just exclude them because I'm like, what are the odds that 1 or 2 lineups will be on the optimal? However, if I kept 4% Vanderbilt, which is with the field, maybe that's 7 lineups out of my 150, whatever the math comes out to be. Maybe one of those lineups bank and I have a shot. Otherwise, I'm pretty much drawing dead yesterday. So what are your thoughts on that? And how do you approach those like really guys that just hardly show up in your script? Do you just cross them off? What do you do?
So I think what I do, I think I understand what you're saying when you see like the 4% guy. It's like, I try to worry about the guys I have the most exposure to at the top. And like, if that looks good, I'm okay with some of the stuff at the bottom. Like I won't mess with it too much because like, why am I blowing everything up for one guy that's at 4% for my entire thing? And I guess like time is money, right? And like when you're
my thought process is I can go and I can like in SaberSim, you can click the enlarge on those guys, can go delete every single lineup, put those guys in 6 of them. And then I'm telling myself I'll get 6 more lineups with guys already in my script that I have more of, and I can get a little more overweight. But I mean, it's probably wrong. Like I know Whistles Go Woo and Big T, we're kind of talking about on the Showdown show one of those days. And he says how he never does that. Big T does. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer. And I'm glad we're talking through this because it's part of like my thought process before I submit my teams.
Yeah, I would keep them, I think, typically. As the times where I don't want to keep them, title is like, if it's a guy like we'll use this as an example, like Chris Middleton is at 47% like owned, right? And you knew Chris Middleton had ownership at 6.8 on FanDuel. Like Chris Middleton at like 47%. Do I need like 6% of him?
Oh
No.
yeah, that's never in my,
The Vanderbilts I'd keep though, like the lower, especially if I think he's like a little bit lower, because I think he's like the unique differentiation piece, right?
I'm
like
going to start doing that, Mangone. And if I shit because of that, I'm going to thank you a lot. I'm going to start doing that for you.
I think it's correct. That's what I think you're supposed to do with it. The only time I get a little nervous about it is like if you have too many of them. I don't really think you want to have like just like a million guys at like 4%.
Well, I never knew I had like 4 guys pop up and like in just one lineup. I will still cross off the one lineups. Like the 3-4%, if you're 150 and that's a couple lineups, he was my lowest zone. Then it was like 3%. Then it was like 8% was the next. So I'm going to keep those from now on because of what you're saying.
Yeah. I'd worry on like I think I'd worry, and I don't have this answer for sure, but I'd worry more on like those like bigger NBA slates where like, how many, let's say you have like under 10%. Like, let's say you have like, I don't know, like, yeah, like 40 to 50 guys that are just like under 10%, like just sprinkled in. That's like probably too many. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't
that's probably
like
the wrong.
That.
That's the wrong number, but that's the point I think I'm getting at. And the low end guys are definitely what Josh said. That's how you pick with the low end guys. So yeah, if you can find those for sure, that's definitely the low end guys that get it done. Or like I said with your team, that I think is really good. I think a lot of people were probably paying up at power forward for Embiid, and you just have a different type of construction, right? Like that's one thing I like to do a lot. Like one thing on DK, I noticed on a slate that I had a pretty successful team. It was because I hated center that day. I thought it was a bad position. People were still playing centers. And you know what I did? I just took one of the power forward centers like Nick Batum and I plugged him in at center.
Yeah.
And like that alone, I felt like made my team unique because Nick Batum, I think was only getting like maybe 15 to 20% ownership. And I was like, how many guys are putting him in at the center spot instead of the power forward? Because it seemed like on most of the teams that I was looking at, one, he wasn't even popping. And two, whenever teams were popping up, they were centers and they were double center builds. So I just said, no double center. Let me go the complete opposite way. And yes, I am playing a center technically with Nick Batum because every team needs one center, but he's not a center. I mean, he's also power forward eligible and he's on that for most teams. So that's one of my favorite things to do with getting unique is like just seeing a guy that like, I know he's being plugged in one spot and putting him in at the other position because it's making it different. Like Kevin Huerter, let's say that like everyone's plugging him at shooting guard. Maybe I'll plug him in at small forward if I have a stand on like liking Desmond Bane and other people don't. Those are just small ways. Like I think you can just like be different and make some smart teams as well. So that's something I try to look for. Another thing I try to look for, Tyler, which I'd be curious to get your thought process. And this isn't more MMA. It's more like probably single entry tournament stuff, but it's good to ask you because we have similar minds, right? I think me, you and Hoop, like very similar thinking for sure. Good at finding value. When I do tournament teams, I try to find like my low owned guys first and then build in the cash guys. Like sometimes I think I get stuck like in the past building cash teams. And then like, I try to find which guy's going to be the low owned guy. No, I go the opposite way now. I build like, who are the couple low owned guys that I think can be the difference makers for me? And then I'm going to fill out what cash guys kind of fit that construction based on using the optimizer, based on doing a little bit of hand building. What's your thought process on that? Because that's something I think has helped me a ton.
It's an interesting question. And I think that kind of varies on sport. Like MLB wise, like I know I'm just stacking. So MLB, I don't really care. Like I don't look at it that at all. I guess I just find my teams. At pitcher, I guess I look at the chalk and I say, do I want to eat that there? Do I want to get different this guy? As far as NBA, I think I think I'm a little different, like the SO play of the day. So if I'm on the show, I give out the SO play of the day. I know he's going to be lower owned if it's like an Emmanuel Quickly that came in my head because it was one of the good ones I gave out. But I already know I'm going to be different. Then yeah, I plug in. I already know I'm plugging a lower owned guy. I don't care about that as much. If I'm coming on a slate, nothing standing out and that's going to be low owned and stuff. I start in the upper tier and like kind of how I guess I'm building MME right now on FanDuel. I start in the upper tier. I look at who's going to be the chalk. Is it going to be Embiid, Giannis, Jokic, blah, 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 Cat, etc. And then I'm looking at them like, do I like them in this spot? If I do, I'll just jam them and make sure I'm way overweight. If I don't like them as much, like the Embiid, the KD and Kyrie's in this series, I haven't played. Kyrie bit me in series 1. In the game 2, I didn't really have them. And that's why I was able to get Giannis. I'm kind of taking a different approach though. I'm looking at the chalky guys in the upper range and making a stand on how I want to approach them. And then kind of letting the opto do the work on the value, whether it's jamming a Kyle Anderson, whether it's jamming a Daniel Tice, stuff like that. So I think I'm approaching that a little differently, but I'm also mainly focused on MME right now. I'm not playing too much single entry. Like I played on DK one day, a couple of days ago, and I thought my lineup was for sure going to be unique. Somehow it was due to like 2 other people. And I'm like, yeah, I'm giving up on single entry in the NBA playoffs on DraftKings. So I'm just MME.
Yeah, I tell you that, Tyler, that's the thing I've noticed, at least for me. I'm like, I like to run stuff. And when I look at it, I look at like what the unique teams are doing. And then kind of like from there, like look at who are like the lower end guys and like make like a smart team that way. Like for instance, like one thing, I'll just do it on this end and just like kind of like explain what I'm doing. But I assume like if you had to pick like we have the Suns on the slate, right? We have the Bulls and the Bucks. And I assume like the Bucks and the Suns, right? They're going to gain ownership today, right? Just naturally because they have injuries and like prices haven't adjusted. So who's a stud that people won't play? They probably won't play Jimmy Butler, correct? Like on the road, he's probably just not going to be on. Let's say I have a stand, he's low owned, he's going to be a good play, and he's not popping up and stuff. If I just like run, like, so if I run stuff like normally, which I'll just run it real quick, let's see. If I run just like a single entry team real quick on SaberSim, which again, these are things you can do like throughout the day, which is nice. Like you're able to sit there, crank out teams. And I think it's like important to do. I have to make a couple adjustments to the
when you're doing that, I'll touch on Richie Small's comment real quick. He said,
okay,
Title, wouldn't you be more willing to play like a guy at Vandy at such low ownership, especially because he gets minutes? And yeah, like absolutely. That's why we're talking leaks in the process. My reasoning for crossing off the Vanderbilt had nothing to do about the player or like it fit perfect. He was 4% owned. I had 4%. I should have left him in hindsight. My reasoning was because he was 3%, which is the lowest owned guy in my script. The next guy was 8%. In my head, why I cross off a lot of those guys that just get sprinkled in is because like, I'm like, if Jared Vanderbilt's on the winner, the likelihood of my 4% of lineups having the nuts pretty much is not going to happen, which is the wrong mindset. That's what I was thinking though. I was like, might as well get rid of those Savage Vandy lineups to then get the rest of the 7 lineups to get guys that I have way more ownership of. I can get way more overweight on and hope those guys in the optimal, so I have more of a shot. That's my thought process. Again, I think that's wrong. And from now on, and I'm not doing that. But yes, you would want to take a shot on already someone that's low owned that'll get the minutes. It was a leak in my process, I think.
Yeah, another thing I do sometimes with that, like I said, with the game stacks, like I don't worry about it as much because I like to run those game stacks. So when I do that, I'm like, well, mine's already unique in that way. So like it gives me maybe a difference than
for
other
sure.
people. So
when you were talking about like positions, I know you're about to touch on this, but like you were talking like certain ways to get different. I thought you made great points. We talk about it in baseball all the time, like Ohtani and Jared Walsh. Why I love playing that little angel stack. A lot of people play Ohtani at first base since outfield's always loaded. You can play him at both positions. When you plug Ohtani in the outfield, then you play a Jared Walsh at first base. You're already different than majority of teams, even if they are running angel stacks. Same thing with Dalton Varsho and Carson Kelly or whatever they got there. Same thing. You play Varsho in the outfield, you play someone at catcher. Little things like you're saying, man, going to get different is important. That's why I wish FanDuel didn't put Embiid, Jokic, blah, 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 power forward too, because the center position only being able to play one was a big thing on FanDuel and how you could get different. So a little rant there, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think those are good points there for sure. Definitely agree with you on that. So I think I pulled it up here. Yeah. So like when I ran the first team, right? Like it's just like this is like straight like a projections, like whatever it says. We got. Let me see. There's a lot of bulls in it for sure. It wasn't like a cash team. It was more of like a single entry one. So it's got a lot of them. I lowered Giannis and stuff by accident because I was trying to make it just like run. So that's probably why not as many bucks are popping. But there's $2. I'm not gonna say all the guys just because we're doing this. There's like 2 Hawks and then like they got 4 bulls in here, which is probably, I don't know if that's completely correct. It's too early though. I
was gonna say it's 10:26 and what's 8:26 by you right now.
Yeah.
But I haven't looked at an NBA slate this early and I couldn't tell you how long. But
when I run the 2 teams,
playoffs you can do it more so than regular season though.
But the difference I'm seeing when I did what I did was like I saw Trae Young was getting a lot of like there's like a 2v2 where it's like, Trae Young is like the guy where Trae Young is like a little more expensive and Jimmy Butler's like a little less expensive. They get you one more upgrade where like those 2v2s and 3v3s could give you a really unique build where you plug in like an 8% guy. Like I'm not saying Jimmy's gonna be 8, but he's going to be kind of low, I think today. And then it might give you another low percent guy. And it could be a really nice combo that can get you to the top. On top of that, like sometimes when I see like a lot of the teams have been building more mid-tier. Then the other day, I felt like playing Giannis or Tatum or even KD. That was a really good build that you could do. So overall, I think this is like so many different ways you can mess with it. The best way to do it though is to be signed up here at Run Beer Sports using SaberSim and just like messing with an optimizer. Like, and maybe you're watching and you already use a different optimizer and that's fine. Like, but you can use our content to use it with that optimizer too. If you want to use SaberSim, go ahead and do what you want. But the point I'm getting at is I think we do a great job of helping you, especially on the Up to Lock show, teach you how to like do the proper things. Big T does a great job of walking through what he's doing with his 150. JSU does a great job on the premium show with that. AP has the heat map to help you make a really good player pool. You use the cash chart too to help you out. I think that's some of the stuff that we have over here at Run For Your Sports that can help you out. So if you haven't signed up, definitely go on over and do that. And if you guys could like, subscribe to the video, helps us out a ton. We got 2 p.m. We got Title doing the MMA show. Title, let's dive in though and do like kind of a first look on this, slate for the NBA tonight. It's definitely going to be a different kind of slate because we have injuries. Like you're not used to having injuries in the playoffs. We get these throughout the year. Let's say you have like, I don't know, 80 playoff slates. You probably get like 4 or 5 of these. You don't get a ton where there's just injuries that are making obvious value plays that I think you need to go to.
It's been a brutal playoffs with injuries, man. It's been tough.
It's not typical. That's the funny part. So yeah, we'll see how it all adjusts. Obviously, this is the first day with these injuries. So like prices have not adjusted that well. Let's talk about the Heat and the Hawks first, which not as much of an injury game, but John Collins is back, right? And he's 5.9K.
I'm seeing Bam questionable, PJ questionable. Obviously, you expect PJ and all them to play, but I guess there is questionable.
They were questionable last game too.
I mean, I'm expecting them all to play, but when you said not injury news, like they're on the injury report, it says it different, but yeah, I expect them to play too.
Yeah. So that's a good point. The reason I'm not even including it is they were questionable last game they played. I don't think it was anything. It's
fair enough.
But yeah. So let's talk about John Collins first at 5'9". I think he's a pretty good talking point. He had 29 minutes, got 31 DK points. Like if John Collins was in this role, he probably should be like 6'5", 6'6". Like I think that's an underpriced player. The question is he worth going to with some of the other values? Like that's what we're going to have to grade out. So we talked about him, Trae Young at 9.4 at home, like star at home, jump shooter too. Sometimes you want to take the shooters at home. Kevin Huerter, I think it's a pretty good spot for him at 5K. I'm sure I'll be back on him. Don't mind Gallinari at 4.8. I think there's a lot of good options with the Hawks, but I do want to limit some of the Hawks. Like I don't think I'm trying to have a team with like 3 Hawks on it. I do think they can get the job done tonight though. What's your thoughts on them and what's your thought on the Heat?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I definitely like Trae at 9.4K. I know you and I both like the Hawks in the series we were talked about before the Capella injury, which definitely changed some things. But I mean, I'm fading the Heat. I'm going to fade them in the second series for sure. Hope the 76ers get them, which they obviously should. I'm not a big Heat guy, so I think the Hawks can steal one. I think Trae Young at home, you see that 9.4K price tag. He's going to play all the minutes he can handle, which you like to see. He's played poorly. He's had 39 DK points last game. Man, he had 10 turnovers. Absolutely brutal. But I think it's a good bounce back at home. Big T talked about it a lot yesterday about the home road teams. I like John Collins' price at 5.9K. Bam at 7K is the one that sticks out, man. You see him he's just center eligible. I expect him to carry some ownership. What are your thoughts on Bam? Do you like going like the John Collins, plug him at the center position, fade Bam? Most people play Collins at power forward. I think that could fall into what you were talking about.
Yeah, you definitely can. It just depends what you think of like the center position overall. The only issue I have with it is like Brook Lopez 5'3". It's not a hard fade, but it's definitely someone's going to get run. Like Portis might get a little more run too.
There's Vooch there too, I guess.
Vooch at 7'7", Ayton at 7'6". I like doing it when I think the position's weak. Even Valanciunas at 7'4" still feels cheap. Like that's my only concern. I don't know if that's the position I would do it at for sure, but I like the thought process for sure. It depends. You have to make sure like power forward's good too, because if you're going to slam in like a power forward there, you got to make sure that you're okay with that. So, yeah, I think I like
DeAndre Hunter too. I thought his game log, thought his DK points was going to be more than what he had, but I expect him to play 35 minutes. He looked pretty good to me out there actually. Like I sound like Big T saying that, like talking about the eye test and stuff, but the price tag's pretty good at 4.6K, 4.3 on FanDuel. FanDuel looks like he's going to carry some ownership, but I think
my opinion is, I think maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you have a different opinion. I just think Huerter and Hunter are like almost the same player right now. Like not type of player. They're almost like the same fantasy producer. And I just think Huerter has more upside. I don't know if you agree or disagree.
I don't, to be honest, I don't think I agree because like Huerter's upside. Huerter can go 6 from 6 from downtown, 24 real points. And that might be all he gets you. Whereas Hunter, I think can grab you 8 boards, 5 assists, maybe put up 15 points. I don't know. I think Hunter a little bit, but I get what you're saying.
It's fair.
One's
I'm
just so
definitely
scoring
biased.
dependent.
Yeah, I'm definitely biased. Like, I'll admit, like, I have some bias towards.
I mean, he can definitely score a lot more, like raw scoring, but we know like that's like a Clarkson and stuff like that. I mean, he rebounds better than. I don't know. It's close. I think you can play them both. What would you make a rule like at most one of them? I mean,
I don't know if I don't know if I want to play both. That's my big concern, but especially with this slate, I think if you didn't have as much value, I'd be fine with it. But I just think you have enough value where I don't think you want to do both of them together. I think that would be a mistake for me at least. And like Gallinari is another one I'd probably lump in there. Like I might group them all away from each other. I don't know. It's just,
talk about DeLon Wright. He's an interesting one. It looks like, so you were talking value, like there's some value, like obviously with Bucks without Middleton and stuff. But like 3.4K, there's not a lot of value in the low threes that you can feel okay about. DeLon Wright played 29 minutes last game. What are your thoughts on him? I think he's interesting.
He's definitely interesting. So he's got point guard and shooting guard eligibility. I'm trying to think of like the other ones. Like Drew is going to be one you want to maybe get in your lineups because I mean, Giannis, Drew, like they're both just in good spots. Even like Chris Paul. The problem is guard seems like it's going to be like you're going to want to go for some of these spends. Maybe you will need to go for a 3K guy. I
mean, we'll get to game by game, but I'm looking ahead. Like the low three, there is not. Trey Murphy's 3.6. He's interesting, I think, but like.
It's fair. If you need a 3K guy, I think you're correct, right? Like I like the thought process there on that. I don't know if you're going to need it just because I think like a lot of these mid-tier guys, like no Booker, right? So like Mikal Bridges gets a big bump, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder. Like it feels like all of them get small bumps in some way. Like,
but if Giannis goes for 75 and one of Trey, Jimmy, Ayton, CP3, one of them go for, you know what I'm saying? Go for 60. Like Big T talks about it. Like you can. Playoffs is a crazy, crazy game. It's not like the regular season. You could see a 10 at 3.4K theoretically be in the winner because of what the studs do and like the guys you need. So it's an interesting one. It really is. I wonder. I mean, it's way too early to break down a whole slate when starters, this, that. We don't know exactly. But on the Up to Lock show, it's gonna be really curious. I'm gonna be really curious to see, do people go for one of the guys in the 3K range? Is that range avoided? Then you can go the opposite way a little bit and maybe get a little ownership edge.
Yeah, no, it's definitely gonna be interesting to see what people say. We had a question in the chat. If you guys have questions, feel free to throw them in there. Maybe I missed a couple, but we got Wright or Vincent. I would definitely lean Wright if I had to pick. I just think Vincent was more so getting more blowout run, it felt like, than actual like real minutes if the game was like more competitive.
Wright has a more solid role, that's for sure. I would definitely go him. Vincent has
also
more
since
miles.
they're down 0-2 and like they need to kind of make some adjustments, like that might be an adjustment they make, like just bumping Wright's minutes and maybe bumping down Okongwu's a little more, maybe doing the Gallinari at the 5 at times if they really want to get smaller against Dedmon to just try and pull him away from the hoop and just get some free open looks, right? That's just some adjustments that teams can make when they're playing the chess match on the basketball court. So
more talk about him. I like him. He bigger guard. He can rebound a bit. He played pretty well. Like, yeah, I think he's definitely going to be a part of it. 29 minutes. I think he's definitely a part of the game plan.
Yeah, one thing I'll probably do after the show is I'll probably pull up Popcorn Machine and like look into that a little bit.
I was pulling it up. It's a lot on the show with 2 man, so I exit out. But yeah, Popcorn Machine's definitely a good tool to use.
Yeah, definitely going to go and use that after the show and check that out. Let's see. So I don't have too much else to say from this game. We can head over to the Bucks and the Bulls, and
I'll ask one more before you do it. So if you're MMEing, do you do a max or at most one of Jimmy Bam?
No, because if the game's close and competitive, like you can definitely shoot out pretty well.
Or you bank OT and stuff like that, and you're drawing dead doing that.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say is like there's a lot of good studs on this slate, like just in general. So like that have upside. So I could see why you'd want to do that. But
I was asking to be honest, like I don't know there's no right or wrong, but I think you brought up the good point. Like it could blow up, meaning like it could go crazy. But like the OTs in the playoffs, if a game gets to OT, maybe even hits the double OT. We're going to see it in the playoffs one of these times. But if you bink the double OT game and that's the game stack you get, those extra 10 minutes for those players, when you have 4 or 5 of them, like it's probably going to be too much to overcome on a slate and just end it all. So a game like this, that is a 1.5 point spread, definitely makes sense. So I think at most one of those two would probably be the wrong move, especially because of their price. It's not a KD Kyrie price where they're both 10K plus or whatever. Like, it's pretty reasonable. So
yeah, one reason I probably won't do that is also because like Bam is only 7.3 on FanDuel, which is pretty good price. I know Jimmy's 8.9,
He's 7 on DK too. Yeah, that's what I mean. The price isn't bad.
Yeah, and on top of that, like when I do like so I'll probably mess with stuff and see if I'm going to do the stacks for sure. I'll probably do the stacks like I've done today again. But if I do stack,
go ahead.
If I do stacks, like the thing I would want is like if it does like shoot out like I want and like be like a pretty good game, I think both those guys can get there and go off. So like I'm okay with it. And like if I do stacks, right, and I group those guys away, well, what am I getting? Am I getting like Butler, Struss, and Hero? Like just like looks I don't know if I want. I'd rather just have like more of like condensing on the offense and hoping that they just kind of both go off. If that makes sense.
Makes sense. What would you do with like Vooch, Levine, and DeRozan? I think that's a better example.
Yeah, that's a good
segue. Because someone in chat asked about that. Good
yeah, I was just gonna say it too. So what we do with Vooch, Levine, and DeRozan together? I don't want all three on a team. I think that's wrong, like for sure. I'd say max at 2. I think that's the best way to do that.
That's how I've been approaching them too.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense. And it's hard to get all three. The other thing too is like, let's say all three do go off title, like all three crush. You probably need Bucks run backs. And like, can I afford Giannis there? Can I afford Drew? Probably not. So that's another reason I don't think it would like just naturally work. And then I need like tons of value plays that are dirt cheap. And like a lot of the good value is going to be in the mid tier, I think today. So like, and by mid tier, I mean like the mid 4s, the like mid 5s. I think there's a lot of good value in that range where not as many of these 3K guys, you're not going to need like 2 or 3 3K guys. I think like maybe one of them is like the correct move. So that's kind of some of my thought process there on those guys. Do you have a lean on like who you think is best between Levine, DeRozan, and Vucevic? Obviously positions matter. My lean is, I think just like overall, I think Vucevic is my favorite guy to go to. I think the lowest owned guy is likely going to be, I would assume DeRozan, but he's obviously like their guy that if like they're closing the game out, he's the guy that kind of gets the job done. I think people will plug in Levine just because models will like it at 7.3. And I don't know what to do exactly with Levine, but Vucevic is probably my favorite at 7.7 if I'm picking between those guys.
When I'm seeing ownership and all that, mine's DeMar for sure. I mean, the dude has the ball in his hand 24/7, straight up killer. He's killing the Bucks. No one can guard him. Gonna shoot 30 plus times. I'm seeing he's the lowest owned. DeRozan for me right now.
What about Pat Williams? Do you have like a take on him? Like,
I've always liked Pat. That man can play, and they need him in this series, so I like him.
Yeah, he's 4-2. So he's someone that like, I don't know, he might not pop up as much as like some of these other guys. Like I think on like a normal slate when you didn't have injury news, I think Pat Williams would like pop a little more, but he might just kind of get underlooked. So that's what that's you. But let's talk about the Bucks and like your Deer District. So I'll just let you have the floor title. How are you handling it with no Middleton? Like what is our Deer District Bucks expert doing here?
Well, first of all, I'm getting a little nervous that because I was already just looking past the Bulls. I booked my flight right when Wisconsin. It's like 40 degrees or something recently. It's like 80 here in Texas. So I booked my flight for like May 4th, I believe, or something like that. Hoping, the Bucks will walk through. I'll be back in series 2, and then I'll be at the Deer District. I'm getting a little nervous that the Bucks are gonna cut my trip short. I think they still get past this series, but man, it's a little nerve-wracking without Middleton. However, obviously, Middleton's the big news there without him. Are they going to start Pat Con? Are they going to start Grayson Allen? I think it has to be one of those two. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. I think it should be Grayson. It might be Pat. I don't really know. Grayson's a better scorer. He can create his own better. He's more like Middleton, in my opinion. Pat Con's more stands out on the 3. He's very athletic, but I think Grayson's more the smooth shooter, can get his own, which when you're playing alongside Wesley Matthews, who he's 3-and-D, Brook Lopez is there, but yeah, Drew and Giannis are going to get focused on so much. I think the Pat Con or the Grayson, whichever one does start, I'm definitely going to have interest in them. It's going to be impossible to ignore. Pat Con, even if he comes off the bench, he's a good rebounder. He can fill the peripherals a little bit. So I'm definitely going to be targeting one of those two for the Bucks. They bring value. As far as Brook Lopez, I'm seeing kind of low ownership right now. Again, slate locks in 8 hours or whatever. So stuff can change, but if he's going to be low, I'm going to play him at 5.3K. Center is pretty good. Maybe I'll play 2, but we were talking about it. When Middleton got hurt, obviously Bobby is back, so they can go more small. But I don't think they're going to play Giannis at the 5 as much as I wish they would without Middleton, because Brook offers some scoring. He still has good defense. He can stretch the floor a little bit. I think they're going to need him without Middleton in his presence. So if he's going to be 10% owned, which is what I'm seeing, obviously it might come up a little. he's going to be someone I'm overweight on because we know he has a ceiling. He showed it last game at low ownership, and now they don't have Middleton. Obviously, Giannis, a great play. Drew at AK, a great play. I don't got to tell you that. But I don't think they're like stone cold locks by any means. Giannis is obviously going to be very owned, but if a DeLon Wright, if some of the other value doesn't get there, then he might not be optimal. There's CP3, there's McCollum, Joval, there's Ingram. Like this is a sick slate. Now that we're talking about Mangone, this is a really, really good slate with a ton of studs. Obviously, I'm going to play a lot of Giannis. I think a Pat Williams is a good play, DeLon Wright, etc. But there's builds that, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised Giannis puts up 65 and isn't in the winner. I'm talking FanDuel more, but 62 on DraftKings isn't on the winner because what the mid-tier does.
I mean, who doesn't love Giannis in like a competitive game, right? I mean, that's the thing. Like, that's why I love him in playoffs. And I don't know if he's on their own. You definitely don't want to ignore him completely. Definitely going to be a good
I just don't think like he was 20% on FanDuel in game 2. And I saw like with the ownership, I was like, this is ridiculous. Now I'm expecting what? 50% owned. You think he's going to be like, everyone's going to want him. And of course, he's not going to be one of the studs I'm just like making a stand on and fading by any means, but I can't get like underweight on Giannis. I would probably just play 50% if he was 50. It's kind of how I'd approach that. Right, wrong, and different. I don't know, but I don't want to just lock him in and eat the chalk with everyone else. But man, you just can't fade a Giannis in a spot like this. I don't know. That's kind of how I'm approaching it.
I assume you're correct on that. I'm just curious, like if you plug in Chris Paul, because like Chris Paul's a really good play too, right? Like I'm not ignoring that.
See, right. Like, I guess the stuff I'm looking at right now is not showing Chris Paul as much. It's going more Giannis. So
probably correct. I wouldn't be surprised because nothing is like Chris Paul, and I've liked him every game. I mean,
Giannis is only 11-2 without mid.
Oh
like,
yeah,
everyone's gonna play him, and they need to like. No one's got it. Yeah, he's by far the best play, but the ownership's gonna be there.
The reason I think you're right about that too is I think a lot of people will like. They'll go to Vucevic, right, for 7-7 or like some of those other mid-tier guys. And then like Chris Paul will get under owned, I think. So like they'll plug in like the Bridges, the Cam Johnsons, the Crowders, maybe an Ayton over him. I like the idea of just let me slam in both and figure it out. So
and one of the Bucks starters that's going to be cheap. Like people are going to find value to play Giannis. I think that's what builds are going to go.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I was thinking at first maybe Paul could be the priority just because like the big gap, but the gap's not as big, right? It looks larger when you see 11-2 and 8-9, but that's in reality that's only 2K, right? It looked like
that if it was 9-1 and like 9.1K and 11K, it looks a lot smaller than that.
Yeah. It just on like the quick look, I was like, oh, it looks larger. That happens all the time for sure. When I'm looking at things first look wise, but yeah, I don't think people are going to do the double route. So maybe I'll do the double. We'll have to see. Tons of time. I mean, it's very early. It's lunchtime. Guys, if you could subscribe to the video, it helps us out a ton. We're going to get out of here in 15 minutes or less. Title's got that MMA show at 2 p.m. So be sure to show back up for that. We got the MLB Swing for the Fences show today at 4:45. So when you subscribe to the channel, you get notified when we go live. And then, we got Big T and JSU doing the premium up the lock show. And I'm sure we'll have tons of content over the weekend for you guys over at Run Pure Sports. So go sign up now. Let's go over and talk about let's talk about Brook Lopez a little bit. What are you doing with him at 5'3"? Because we talk about Collins, talk about Bam, Vucevic as the center. We can talk about Ayton. We can talk about Valanciunas. Does Brook Lopez somehow get lost in the shuffle at 5.3K title? Because that's a really interesting guy that should probably be a good value, but that position might matter a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about a little bit. I'm seeing that 10% owned is what I'm seeing. It looks like he's going to be lost. He's just center eligible. That 5.3K, like if you're plugging in Giannis and all that, you could play a Pat Con if he starts at 4K or whatever. If Grayson, I think, is 4.4. Pat Williams, 4.2. We're talking Trey Murphy, 3.5. DeLon Wright, 3.4. Again, some of those prices might be off by a little, but all of those are discounts to a Brook Lopez. And Brook is just center eligible. So I do think he's lost in the shuffle. And like I said, I mean, I'm going to be overweight on Brook Lopez. Without Middleton, I don't think they can go. I don't think they will go the Giannis at the 5 route as much. I'm expecting Brook to play 30 minutes in this game. Yes, Bobby Portis, he did get hurt. That did change a lot of stuff off the bench. So maybe I'm wrong and Brook only plays 25 minutes, but I really would be surprised. And at 10%, I can make a stand and get overweight and play 30% Brook or something. And even if he does just play 25 minutes, he still could get there. We know Brook, he can get hot, grab some boards, some blocks and stuff. But 10% ownership for a guy that can play 35 minutes, can play 30 minutes, has double upside now without their second best scorer, like 10% is just wrong. So I'm going to be overweight on Brook for sure.
Yeah, I definitely think getting overweight on him is a good idea. He's definitely an interesting talking point on this slate. I mean,
if you look at his game logs, 15, 14, 11, 16, 14, 13 shot attempts. You're telling me a 10% guy at 5.3K on FanDuel, he's 5'7", someone has 5%, 6%. Like, he just put up 36 DK. Like, man, I'm definitely going to be overweight on him if these ownership numbers are right.
Yeah, his floor can be brutal, but like,
but you play for first. Like you saw the gap where like my team, fourth place out of 60,000, 7,500. Sure, 7,500, fine. First place, 100K. In DK, 100K to first. What is it? 25K to second. You do not care about anything but first. Like you just can't celebrate anything but first anymore.
Oh yeah, the payout structures are brutal. Let me, since we're talking about bad payout structures, I haven't looked yet. Let's see what the 555
I can
is on
guarantee
DK.
it's going to be awful.
Okay, 555 is not. It's got a little. So here's
it's not the 50, 15, 5 or whatever we thought it was.
No, but this is where the problem is, because it happened last night. I noticed it last night. It's 50 to first, 25K to second, 10K to third,
oh, it just
fourth,
drops.
fifth, 5K. Here's the problem, title. If you get 86 the 51st, right? If you are in the min cash range, your 555 turns into $750.
Oh my God.
That is the problem. So I noticed that last night because I was in that contest and it had been playing a little bit better. I had noticed like the payout structure was a little better. And
I like that.
Tough at the,
I like that more than the 50-15. I like that more than the 50-15, 10K. Like sometimes they had second place at 15K or 20K. I still like the mid, because like at least when you take fifth, you don't feel like you got boned as much. But the 750 on a mid cash, that's bad. What would you prefer though if you had a pick?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I don't know, because I've been in a lot of the different positions and it's brutal.
Oh, we've been in all of them. I mean, we wish it could actually just be done. That 50K up top was 30K up top, and that of course we all want that.
That's what I want.
Yeah,
if I can somehow get that, I don't know how we can't get it.
But if you had a pick between 750 between the mid cash, or at least the top 10 is paid better, what would you pick?
I'm starting to think the min cash one is better, because like at the end of the day, you are playing for first, and I know that's second, third, and I think
but the longevity, you just think.
I think long term wise, I mean, looking at it yesterday, it was like kind of like gross. I was like, because I min cash, like I snuck in, probably got like, I think it was in like 70th or something like that, and like it definitely was brutal when I looked at it. I was like, geez, that is absolutely terrible. I think that's what I'd lean. I don't know if that's right or wrong. I mean, I don't think there is a right or wrong answer, but
no, there is no right or wrong answer.
Yeah, I think that's my lean, but it gross payouts either way. But we'll see if I sign up for it today. I might. I want to run through some stuff before I sign up for it for sure. Let's go talk about that Suns and Pelicans game title. We haven't gotten to that one where, hey, no Devin Booker. Like that's a pretty big loss. Seems like Cam Johnson's going to slide into the lineup. I assume that means Cam Payne off the bench at 4 or 5. Like they're going to need him to score. Now, of course, he's not going to be Devin Booker, but he better get buckets. Like he's going to have to do it. Chris Paul's going to have a larger load. It feels like that DeAndre Ayton is going to have to step up a bit. Like last game, he had 6 field goal attempts. Like DeAndre can't be doing that. He needs more. This is where our boy Bogart, it's DeAndre Ayton's time to shine, Bogart. Like this is your chance to let him be the man. So should be fun to watch. I think this series got a little more interesting. I do think the Suns end up still winning out. We'll have to see. But what's your thoughts here? Because I like Chris Paul. I like a lot of these mid-tier guys like Jay Crowder, Cam Johnson. They're all guys that I'm going to consider. And on the Pelican side, I'm not in love with like CJ and Ingram. I just think those prices are too high for me. I don't mind them as differentiation pieces. I prefer Valanciunas if I have to pick one. And I don't really want to mess with too many other guys in the Pelicans. How about you?
So yeah, I'll start with the Suns. Yeah, I'm going to start with the Pelicans. Then we'll get to the Suns because the Pelicans are the interesting team for me. I mean, like, so Brandon Ingram, what percent are you going to tell me they're going to be at? I think that's what is going to push me overweight or push me underweight. I'm seeing about 10% for Brandon Ingram right now. I guess that could be right. He's 9K. He's 9.1K on FanDuel. Yes, he played a really, really good game for sure, but he put up 70 DK points. So we know 70 DK points is a ceiling, or at least he can get that. He plays 40 minutes every single game. He's an elite one-on-one bucket getter. He needs to rebound more in the playoffs. The assist numbers are there when he gets double teamed. So if you're telling me someone like a Brandon Ingram's going to be 10% owned, this is where the other 50% of Giannis builds I don't have, I'm going to mess with a Ingram CP3 in the same game, McCollum CP3 in the same game. I think this series is very, very interesting. I've been a huge Suns guy. I think D-Book's a complete stud, all that. This Pelicans team, I think, is better than other people think. I think the Pelicans probably win this series, to be honest. I agree with Big T. I think that number is absolutely crazy. The Pelicans have two elite one-on-one scorers in Brandon Ingram and McCollum. They have a big and JoVale that's okay. And the secondary pieces, I think, all know their role and are good. Larry Nance is very good for this team. Herbert Jones can defend at a very high level. They got Jackson Hayes, who I think is fine. Trey Murphy off the bench can shoot it. Alvarado brings energy. Like, this is a good basketball team. And without Devin Booker, the Suns have good pieces. Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, Cam Payne. They're solid pieces, but are they better than Ingram, CJ? This, man, plus 250 or whatever the number on DraftKings is right now, I think is completely wrong. I think this game plays close. This whole series does. I think points are scored. I think it's going to be fun for DFS and could be a pretty good late night hammer. So I'm going to play the Ingrams and the CJs. I'm probably not going to go the JoVale route. So I think I'm going to target the guards more. I do like CP3 as a run back. Of course, I love the Cam Johnsons, Cam Paynes, Jay Crowders of the world. DeAndre Ayton, I agree with you, 7.6K. I think he needs a big game. I think he will have a good game. So I like him as well. I guess JoVale is the one I mainly don't like too much. Herb Jones, he's more defense. If I play him, fine, but I'm not going to go overweight on him. Trey Murphy at 3.6, like, I'm probably going to have some shares of Trey Murphy. He can get hot. If he gets me 20 DK points, Giannis gets you the 75. Like, he'll probably be paired mainly with Giannis in a lot of builds, but I don't even mind adding him in like an Ayton CP3 Brandon Ingram stack that you're stacking late game. So yeah, the more we talk about it, this game's definitely elite, and I want pieces of it. And if Brandon Ingram's 10%, CJ is 25% even at 8.2, I'm going to end up overweight on this game is how I'm approaching it, I think.
Yeah, I like CJ over Ingram. It's going to be hard.
But the price, I think the price and the ownership's going to say that same thing. What if McCollum was 4 times the amount that Ingram was? 3 or 4, I don't know what's right. But what would you do with that then?
I'd agree. I will just say, like, I refuse to play him at 7-8 title. So
you're definitely not playing him at 9K then.
The reason why I refuse is I just thought Valanciunas, like, everyone was playing Ingram at 7-8. And like, I thought Valanciunas was just such a sick leverage like that. Like, and he did great for me in the first game. The second game, it was fine, but I ended up cashing still. Not like Valanciunas helped me cash, but like Valanciunas' leverage was really big that one day. And if Jay Crowder doesn't put up 5 DK points title, like, I have a chance to like ship. Like, it was a very good team. So it depends how he's popping the optimizer, right? Like, if you tell me Ingram's 10% and like, you know, McCollum's 50, yeah, I'd go with that. Now, I don't think those percentages will be that way. The one thing I've definitely noticed in the playoffs is like, it is hard to get like 4 to 5 times the ownership on like one play leveraging another. Like, it seems like these studs, regardless, find a way to get to like 20 to like 18%. So like that other stud that you're leveraging better be 60 or like 80. You know what I mean? So that is something to mention that I've noticed with building out lineups. So I'm curious to see what he comes in at, but you are right. Ingram 9K, that is going to be an uncomfortable one that you might see lower ownership than we have seen on studs in the past. So
yeah, like to that point, and like I do not mind overpaying for studs in the playoffs. Like yesterday, D Russ was 13%. People played Cat. People played that. I don't mind overspending on studs because, you know, they're a stud. They're a hooper. They're one of the best on the team. They're going to play 40 plus minutes, which Ingram's going to do. You can't always say that in the regular season. And when these guys get hot, as we see, they'll just keep chucking. They're going to heat check. Jordan Poole's the world. Brandon Ingram last game. Like, these guys don't miss. Their teammates are going to get them the ball, and they're going to shoot 30 plus times. So that's why I find overspending a little bit, because the ceilings raise in the playoffs for sure. The floor mainly raises in the playoffs. I guess defense and stuff, I guess that doesn't, I don't know. Maybe the floors don't raise as much, but the ceilings definitely raise when it comes to playoff time, because you expect them to get the full run, 40 plus minutes, and they'll shoot. If they're hot, you'll shoot. You're not going to give the ball to Herbert Jones shooting 10 plus times when CJ and Brandon Ingram are on the court. So that's why I'm fine overspending a little bit at lower ownership to try and get different and unique shit.
Yeah, title. I see myself tonight. I don't see myself rooting on Brandon Ingram. I see myself rooting on the other side. Chris Paul. I see myself watching the point God, as people like to call him. I'm going to see him just shimmying on people and getting all the buckets in the world. I just don't think he's going to be like really owned. So I think I'm really going to try and jam Giannis and Paul. I like that setup. And then from there, I'll just kind of hitting some mid-tier guys. Like that'll force me to have to play maybe a Pat Williams, right? Maybe play a Kevon Hurter that other people aren't going to go to, and just fill out like a 4 and 5K build while other people play the Levines and the Vucevics. And like, maybe I can even get one more of those guys in at like that 6 or 7K range, but I'm going to try it. We're going to have to see how it works. Maybe I won't be able to pull it off and I have to deviate from that, but I want to try it. I think that's like my first.
You have 7 hours to focus on that, Mango. You'll be able to make it work. Don't worry.
Yeah. I'm sure I'll be able to find something, but don't got too much else to say, title. I think we did a good breakdown for the people. I guess give final thoughts, and then again, tell the people one last time where they can find you at 2 p.m. and like what you're doing there with the MMA show.
Man, what a slate this is. It was always fun coming on. You do a good job with this show, Mangone. You got a good crowd. Hit the like button for Mangone. Hit that subscribe button. Monday through Friday, Mangone does this. He wakes up early to an alarm clock. Mangone would still be sleeping if this show was not a thing. So
that's a great point. I'd probably be just getting up right now. You might be right.
No, you would still be asleep. There were shows at noon that you were still asleep for that I had to call. You would definitely still be asleep.
You're definitely right, because last night I hooped a lot and I played some volleyball. Like it was probably from 6:30 to like 11. I was like doing like sports activity. So my body is sore today. I'll tell you that.
Hey, you get a little time for a nap, and then you can grind in those winners. But yeah, hit the like, man. I appreciate you having me on. It's a fun show. What a slate we got. These 3 playoff games. Man, playoffs are wide open. We're thinking Bucks absolutely roll the Bulls. Then Middleton gets hurt. And even without Middleton, the Bucks have not looked like people thought the Bucks would. The Bulls have looked better. So that's a really fun series. Suns lose D-Book. The Pelicans are good. What a series that is. This slate's going to be really, really good. -3 Milwaukee, -2 Phoenix, -1.5 for Miami. Expect 3 really good basketball games. Hope we see RPS up top. As far as MMA, 2 p.m. Eastern, DC, Keg, myself, we'll be talking some MMA. What a weekend to be a sports fan. NBA playoffs, MLB, MMA. It's going to be a fun one. Hope to run hot. Hope to see y'all in the Discord, and we'll be picking some winners like always.
Yep, definitely be a fun time. We got Patrick Rice said was throwing bows in the slab last night. Title, I'll tell you this because you'll laugh. We played threes and we were just playing half court. But when I was playing in the game, it was me and this other guy, and it was 3 of us, and 2 of us were like the shorter ones, but we were fine with it. And there was another shorter guy on the other team, but he got subbed out, and they subbed out for a 6'4" guy. So the other team was really tall. And guess who had the bang down low in the slab against
you
the 6'4"
did?
dude? Yeah, it was. I mean, they would get some buckets on me, but I was able to box out enough where we got the job done and we won both games. So
there you go.
That was at least a fun time, but it was fun. I felt like I was on the slab a little bit last night.
I wish I saw a picture. 6'4" and 5'5" Mangone. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. It was a tough scene. It was definitely like if they needed a bucket, they'd go to it, and sometimes they draw the double over. But there'd be times where I could make it difficult enough. But it wasn't as crazy as the slab banging down low. But it'll be fun when we get back together to be able to play. Do you know when you're playing Big T yet? Do we have like a date figured out or not? Not
well,
yet?
I don't know if Big T's released his injury, but yeah, his ankle, it might be broken. I haven't heard an update on that.
Oh no.
When I was there, we were golfing on Monday when pretty much everyone left, and he stepped in a hole on accident and his ankle twisted, and he thought it was, he has really high pain tolerance, I guess. He thought it was going to be better than what it ended up being. Sent me a picture, it ballooned up. He has to go in probably for x-rays or something. So to be honest, I do not know when Big T is going to be ready to, it could be next March, to be honest. Very unfortunate events.
Well, I will say I did not hear about this, but I know he does have a very high pain tolerance. So
I mean, his ankle, when he sent me a picture a couple days later, was fat, and he was still he didn't talk about it much. He was walking on it. Yeah, it was very high indeed.
Okay, well, I guess TBD. So we'll have to see. Hopefully sooner rather than later, though. But that's gonna wrap it up for us, guys. Don't miss out on Title on the MMA show, giving out those winners with DC coming up at 2 p.m. And don't miss out on the Swing for Fences show at 4:45, and then we'll have JSU Big T breaking everything else down on the NBA show tonight. So thanks a lot for joining us. For me, Mangone in Titletown. We will see you guys later.